And then finally, the main event, the AEW World Title match, a Texas death match between Lance Archer and Hangman Page. This was awesome. They immediately start going off in the back, like in the middle of Lance's entrance. Page throws him through a window. Lance starts bleeding. Page then immediately hits a buckshot lariat once they get in the ring. Lance rolls out before he can get pinned. They go out on the outside for a bit. Lambert comes out and removes the top turnbuckle so that Page can't hit the buckshot lariat, which reminded me of this angle. I think it was from the very first time Vince McMahon wrestled Steve Austin, where like Steve Austin said he would have like his one hand tied behind his back, so like he's like, oh well, like the right hand, because that was his quote unquote stunner hand.
I remember
so
that.
He couldn't
yeah.
actually hit the move. So it's like, one of those things, right, where it's like, oh, like, the heels like doing it to like, give themselves an advantage. But like any good babyface, they overcome those odds and they still hit the move. We get a fun spot. I'll let Brose talk about that with the Jake Roberts on the outside.
Yeah, Jake Roberts hits a short arm clothesline, which was fun on the outside. And
Crowd went bananas.
They were going crazy, and he's like setting up for the DDT, and then Lance stops him, and I'm just like, oh man, I really wanted to see him hit a DDT.
Yeah, that's such a good heel thing.
People want to see him do his shit too. Like that would be cool.
It is. And then Paige gets the payoff and DDT's Archer, and that was a fun little
Jake flips him off.
It was a fun little exchange on the outside, which is really cool.
Yeah, and then throughout this, I can't remember, I think it was with the hook on the turnbuckle that Lance busted Hangman open. He's covered in blood, just perfect crimson mask across the face. There's one time when I think it's during an Irish whip, but like Lance had like put his hand on his face, and you see like the literal handprint on Page's face.
That was nuts.
Awesome visual,
crazy visual.
He hits the black hole slam on Hangman on a stairs on the outside. He literally bounces off of it. It looked awesome,
brutal.
And then the finish, Hangman took some barbed wire and like while Lance was picking him up and like dazes him with it, and then he goes for the buckshot. After he drops the barbed wire and the ref bends over, he literally like rolls over the ref and hits the buckshot lariat onto the outside.
Awesome spot. Awesome
spot. Awesome match. Just really like a classic hardcore match. And at the end of this, Adam Cole comes down and just gives the belt to Hangman. So you're kind of leaning into sort of this like mind games type thing, I think, with him, where he's, even with the Bucks, where he's kind of, being a little passive aggressive on certain things, kind of withholding secrets and stuff like that. So he seemed to be set up for, if not the next challenger, a future challenge. But the match itself was really good.
Yeah, Hangman's having nothing but bangers in his title matches. This was like after this match, like Hangman's felt great. Like we loved that he became champion. Everybody was excited about that. We've talked about the chase, how people can start losing interest in the chase. He had great matches with Bryan Danielson, but he really hasn't felt like his reign was like taking off. And after this match, I feel like this was like the first night where I feel like, yeah, okay, now we're moving, now we're going, now we're headed in that direction. Like it was great. It was just great. Lance did his job perfectly. He was so good.
Lance is super underrated.
He's super underrated. He's very good. And you know what, man? Like he's in like a great spot. And like you hear like the Mark thing that people say is like, oh, if you don't want to be champion, why you're here? It's like champion isn't everything. And there's wrestlers that are great. Like look at Jake Roberts. And he made his money and he was great. And he was the guy that people would feud with before they got to Hulk Hogan. And there's spots for those guys in wrestling. You don't always have to be champion. You can find your spot telling stories in another way. You don't always have to be the top guy. And Lance has a fucking amazing spot. He's like a gatekeeper. He's like the Undertaker, in like the 2000s, where, he's the guy that people had to go through, or he's the Big Show. They can, anytime that they need somebody to come back and be a healer or a babyface, he can do it. And Lance has a very valuable spot on the roster, and he doesn't need to be a champion or anything like that. But boy, you believe he could be. Like,
oh, absolutely. One spot that we didn't talk about that really really it was an eye-catching spot was the fork. He was just
Oh,
stabbing,
yeah.
Oh my God, the fork.
just stabbing Paige in the forehead, and then he licks the fork clean.
Like some
dude.
SpaghettiOs. Yeah, straight
Oh
up.
Well,
my
like the way he twists it and
God.
everything.
Yeah.
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 Like full blown puts the fork in his mouth like he ate Hangman's blood. It was fucking awesome.
It was so good. This match was it was brutal, and it had great spots and great wrestling and just Jake Roberts hitting a clothesline. It was just so fun. It was just so fun to watch.
Yeah, I think this was my match of the week personally. This was really, really good.
I 100% agree with that.
My favorite this week was Janela and
Wagner
Dr.
Jr.?
Wagner. Yeah, this week. Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, that was really good too. But yeah, so there was just something. There was just something about this. This was really, really good, really classic.
It was. Yeah, this is up there for me for sure.
Which takes us to Rampage for February 11th.